The door swung open and a man walked in wearing a tailored suit. His shoulders broad, his jaw set like stone. The entire room went silent. Forks stopped midair. Glasses froze at lips. And then someone whispered, "Is that Marcus?" It was. But the Marcus they remembered was a trembling, hollow-chested boy they had thrown away like garbage 15 years ago. The Marcus standing before them now looked like he had swallowed the sun. And he was staring directly at his father. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're new here, click on the subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Marcus Elliott was born on a Tuesday morning in late October. And from the very first breath, nothing went the way his father had planned. Raymond Elliott was a man who believed in appearances. He ran the most respected hardware business in Calverton, a mid-sized town in rural Ohio where everyone knew everyone and reputation was currency. Raymond drove a clean black truck, shook hands firmly, spoke in short sentences, and expected his sons to carry his legacy like a torch. His eldest, Derek, was everything Raymond had dreamed of. Tall, loud, athletic, and fearless. Derek broke records on the school football field, and Raymond showed up to every single game with a chest puffed so far out it nearly burst through his flannel shirt. Then Marcus came along. Marcus was born with a spinal condition called kyphoscoliosis, a curvature of the spine that caused his back to bend noticeably to one side and his left shoulder to sit higher than his right. He walked with a slight limp. He tired easily. He could not run without stumbling, could not lift heavy things, and spent a significant portion of his early childhood in hospitals, wearing braces, doing physical therapy, and trying with everything inside him to keep up with a world that had already decided he was behind. Raymond could not hide his disappointment. He did not even try. When Marcus was 5, Raymond stood at the doorway of the boy's bedroom and watched him struggling to tie his shoes. His small fingers trembling. His curved back hunched over in concentration. Raymond let out a long, slow sigh. Not the kind of sigh that comes from love or patience. The kind that comes from a man recalculating his investments. "He's never going to be useful," Raymond said to his wife, Carol, that night in the kitchen. He said it like Marcus wasn't just down the hallway. He said it like Marcus wasn't even a person. Carol wiped her hands on a dish towel and stared at the wall. She was a soft woman with sad eyes who had learned a long time ago that fighting Raymond Elliott only made things worse. "He's 5 years old, Raymond," she said quietly. "I know how old he is," Raymond snapped. "That's not what I'm talking about." Marcus had heard every word. He was sitting on the hallway floor with his back against the wall, a worn picture book open in his lap, and tears sliding silently down his face. He did not make a sound. He had already learned that making sounds only brought more attention to himself, and attention from his father was never the good kind. School was its own kind of battlefield. The kids in Calverton Elementary were not cruel in the dramatic movie villain way. They were cruel in the quieter, more devastating way. The kind where nobody saved you a seat. The kind where partners were chosen and you were always last. The kind where someone would imitate your walk in the hallway and everyone around them would laugh, not because they hated you but because laughing was easier than standing up. Marcus carried his books close to his chest and walked the long route to class to avoid the main corridor. He ate lunch near the window and read books about places he had never been. He was smart, brilliantly so, but Calverton Elementary did not reward smart. It rewarded fast and loud and strong. Marcus was none of those things. At home the dynamic was just as painful. Derek, 6 years older and a foot taller, treated Marcus the way he treated everything that inconvenienced him. He ignored him when he was lucky and mocked him when he wasn't. "Hey, pretzel," Derek called him once in front of 3 of his friends who had come over after practice. Marcus had walked into the living room to get his backpack. He froze. The friends snickered. "Derek," Carol called from the kitchen, but her voice had no teeth in it. Raymond, sitting in the armchair watching television, said nothing. He picked up his glass of water and took a slow sip. That silence was louder than anything Derek had said. Marcus picked up his backpack and walked back to his room. He sat on the edge of his bed for a long time, staring at the floor. Then he opened a notebook and wrote one sentence at the top of a blank page. "One day I will show all of them." He was 9 years old. The years that followed were defined by a particular kind of loneliness that doesn't get talked about enough. Not the loneliness of having no one around, but the loneliness of being surrounded by people who made you feel invisible. Marcus had his mother, but Carol was a woman imprisoned by her own fear of conflict. She showed love in small, stolen gestures. An extra piece of cake slid quietly onto his plate. A hand briefly pressed to his shoulder when Raymond wasn't looking. It was love, but it was love delivered in whispers, and Marcus needed someone to shout. His saving grace came in the form of a teacher. Mr. Ade was the 7th grade science teacher. He was Nigerian-born, sharp-tongued, and completely indifferent to social hierarchies. He called students by their last names and assigned reading that was 2 grade levels above the curriculum and did not apologize for it. On the first day of school, he stood at the front of the class, pointed directly at Marcus and said, "Elliot, what do you want to be?" Marcus blinked. Nobody had ever asked him that. "I don't know, sir." "Wrong answer," Mr. Ade said, without malice, just bluntness. "Come back tomorrow with a better one." Marcus went home and lay on his bed for an hour thinking about it. Then he sat up and typed into the old family computer the words, "What jobs use intelligence and don't require physical strength?" The search results changed his life. He came back the next day and told Mr. Ade, "I want to be an engineer." Mr. Ade looked at him for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly, like he was filing the information away. "Then you'd better stop being average in my class," he said. "You've got a B+. A B+ is for people who are comfortable. Are you comfortable, Elliot?" Marcus looked at him. "No, sir." "Good," Mr. Ade said. "Then act like it." From that day forward, Marcus attacked every subject like a man with something to prove. 'Cause he was. His grades climbed. He discovered a particular gift for mathematics and spatial reasoning, the kind of mind that could look at a problem from 4 different angles simultaneously. Mr. Ade noticed. He started lending Marcus books, staying after school to discuss concepts, writing him recommendation letters for summer academic programs. But at home, none of it mattered. Raymond did not celebrate Marcus's report cards. He would glance at them, grunt, and set them on the counter. When Derek got a C in history, Raymond sat with him at the kitchen table for an hour helping him study. When Marcus brought home straight A's, Raymond told Carol, "He's got nothing better to do anyway." The blow that finally broke the family apart came when Marcus was 15. He had been accepted into a prestigious STEM residential program 2 states away. It was fully funded. It was transformative. It was exactly the kind of opportunity that changed the trajectory of young lives. The letter arrived on a Friday afternoon, and Marcus held it in his hands like it was made of gold. He walked into the living room where Raymond was watching the game. His hands were shaking slightly, but his voice was steady. "Dad, I got accepted into the Hartfield STEM program. It's in Pennsylvania. Full scholarship. I leave in September." Raymond didn't turn away from the TV immediately. He let a few seconds pass first. Then he looked at Marcus slowly, the way you look at something you've already mentally categorized as irrelevant. "Pennsylvania," he repeated. "Yes, sir. It's one of the top programs in there. And who's going to fund the travel? The supplies. The extras. The program covers almost everything. I just need." "I'm not sending money to Pennsylvania," Raymond said flatly. "Derek's got recruitment visits this fall. That's where the money's going." Marcus stood very still. The letter was still in his hands. "Dad, this is my future." "Your future," Raymond said, looking back at the screen, "is something you're going to have to figure out on your own. You always have been." That sentence landed like a brick through glass. Carol tried to intervene later that night. Marcus heard them through the thin wall between the hallway and their bedroom. "Raymond, please. He works so hard. This could really—" "Carol, I am not doing this tonight. He's your son. Was. Then Raymond said something that Marcus never forgot. His voice was low and cold as concrete. He's always going to be what he is. No program changes that. Marcus was packed and gone within 3 days. He had called the program coordinator, explained his situation, and asked if there was any way to have all materials, communications, and support handled independently. The coordinator, a woman named Dr. Patricia Voss, said yes. She also made a phone call to a small emergency fund the program maintained for exactly these situations and covered the bus fare herself. Marcus left on a Wednesday morning before dawn. He put a note on the kitchen table for his mother. It said, "I love you. Don't worry about me. I'm going to be fine." He did not leave one for Raymond. He did not leave one for Derek. He got on the bus with $42 in his pocket, a backpack full of books, and that worn notebook with a sentence he had written at age 9 still on the first page. "One day I will show all of them." If you're still watching up to now, type "I'm still here" in the comment section. The Hartfield STEM program was the first place in Marcus Elliott's entire life where nobody looked at his spine before they looked at his eyes. He arrived exhausted and overwhelmed and slightly terrified. The campus was nothing like Calverton. There were students from 12 different states, all of them sharp and hungry and strange in the best possible ways. His roommate was a boy from Atlanta named Darius who communicated almost entirely in movie quotes and could solve differential equations in his head. Within a week, they were inseparable. Marcus had never had a real friend before. The feeling was disorienting. Beautiful. Dr. Voss ran the program with the precision of someone who had dedicated her entire career to watching underdogs become exceptional. She saw Marcus within the first week and knew exactly what she was working with. "You've been running on spite," she told him during their first one-on-one meeting. She wasn't being unkind. She was being precise. Marcus looked up from his hands. "Is that bad?" "Spite is excellent fuel," she said. "But it burns dirty. We're going to teach you to run on something cleaner." "Like what?" "Purpose," she said. "Vision. The belief that you are building something real, not just escaping something painful." Took him most of that first year to understand the difference. But when he did, everything shifted. His natural aptitude for engineering blossomed under proper instruction. He had a particular gift for structural engineering, which, if you knew his history, carried a poetry so sharp it could cut. A boy who had been told his structure was broken, dedicating his life to understanding how structures hold weight, how they bear load, how they bend without breaking. After Hartfield, he earned a full academic scholarship to Ohio State. He graduated at the top of his class with a degree in civil and structural engineering. He was recruited immediately by Delvon Infrastructure Group, one of the largest engineering firms in the Midwest, and within 4 years had been promoted twice. His work was precise, innovative, and widely respected. Along the way, he found a specialist in Chicago who helped him manage his spinal condition with a combination of targeted physical therapy and non-invasive treatment. He would never have the posture of a model. But the chronic pain that had shadowed his childhood faded to a manageable background hum. He stood straighter. He moved with an ease that surprised even him. He built a life in Chicago, a good apartment, a small but loyal circle of people who knew his worth. A career that was still climbing. And he never called home. Not once in 15 years. Carol had tried. In the early years, she sent letters to a P.O. box she had found through the program. Marcus read them all. He did not respond. The love in them was real. He knew that. But the love was also entangled with apology and explanation, and a subtle undercurrent of asking him to understand his father. He was not ready to understand his father. He was too busy surviving. Derek tried once, around year 7. A Facebook message that said, "Hey, Ed's not doing great. Thought you should know." Marcus read it. Closed the app. Did not reply. Raymond Elliott had suffered a stroke at 61. It left him with weakened movement on his left side and a speech pattern that required effort. The hardware business had struggled during the pandemic years and Derek had taken it over, running it with considerably less discipline than Raymond had. There were debts, there were tensions, and then Raymond did something that Marcus had not expected. He hired a private investigator to find his son. Marcus found out through Darius, who had stayed close with Marcus through the years and happened to still know people in Ohio. A man had been asking around about a Marcus Elliott, engineer, formerly of Calverton. Marcus sat with this information for 3 weeks. Then he called his mother. Carol picked up on the second ring. There was a sharp intake of breath and then silence for a long second. "Marcus," she said, and the word came out cracked and shaking like a jar dropped on tile. "Hi, Mom," she cried for 4 straight minutes. He let her. He held the phone and looked out the window of his Chicago apartment at the city lights spreading out to the horizon, and he breathed slowly until she was ready to talk. "Your father," she said finally, her voice still unsteady. "He needs to see you. I think he needs to say something to you." "I know about the investigator," Marcus said. He's not the same man he was," Carol said carefully. "I know he's sick, Mom. It's more than that. He talks about you. He started talking about you a lot after the stroke. He asks me questions. Things like what did Marcus like as a kid, what was Marcus good at?" Her voice broke again. "I think he finally sees it. I think he finally—" "Mom." Marcus's voice was gentle but firm. "I'm not coming back for him. I want you to know that. If I come, it's because I've chosen to. Not because he's summoned me." Another pause. Then Carol said something that surprised him. "That's fair." He arrived in Calverton on a Saturday in September, 15 years after he had left on a pre-dawn bus with $42. He drove himself in a silver car that cost more than Raymond's truck and wore a charcoal suit that fit him like architecture. He had not told anyone exactly when he was coming. He had given his mother a date range and told her to carry on normally. He pulled up to the house and sat in the car for a few minutes. It was smaller than he remembered. The yard was still neat. There was a newer truck in the driveway. The same front steps where he had once sat reading while neighborhood kids ran past without inviting him. He got out. Carol opened the door before he reached it. She stood on the porch with both hands pressed to her mouth and tears streaming, and she looked at him. This man her son had become, and she made a sound that was not quite a word. Marcus walked up the steps and put his arms around her. She held him for a long time. He let her. "You look so good," she kept saying into his shoulder. "You look so good." "I'm okay, Mom," he said quietly. "I'm really okay." The inside of the house was the same and different all at once. Same furniture arrangement. Same smell of coffee and wood polish. But Raymond was in an armchair near the window instead of commanding the center of the room, and that changed everything. Raymond Elliott looked like a man who had been slowly deflated. His left hand rested in his lap with a stillness that didn't seem voluntary. His face, always sharp and authoritative, was softer now, the edges worn down. When he looked up and saw Marcus standing in the doorway, something moved across his expression that Marcus had never seen on his father's face before. Looked like shame. "Marcus," Raymond said. His voice was slower than Marcus remembered. The stroke had done that. Marcus stood in the doorway for a moment. Then he walked in and sat down across from his father. The room was quiet. Carol stood at the edge of the kitchen doorway, hands clasped, watching. "You look well," Raymond said. "I am," Marcus said. Raymond looked at him for a long, searching moment. His good hand gripped the armrest. "You became an engineer. Structural engineer. Senior project lead at Delvon. We just completed the Harkin Bridge reconstruction in Michigan." Raymond nodded slowly. His jaw worked like he was chewing on words that had been sitting in his mouth for a very long time. "I looked you up," Raymond said. "After the investigator found you. I looked up your work." He paused. "The Harkin Bridge. I read about that. It was in the news." Marcus said nothing. He waited. "I told your mother," Raymond continued, his voice rougher now. "I told her. I said that's my son. That's Marcus." He stopped. His eyes were wet. She told me I didn't have the right to say that. That I hadn't earned it. She was right, Marcus said quietly. Raymond flinched. But he didn't argue. That, more than anything, told Marcus how much the man had changed. I know I was wrong, Raymond said. I know that doesn't fix anything. I know he stopped. Pressed his lips together. I told myself for years that I was hard on you because I wanted you to be strong. But that was a lie I told myself. He looked at Marcus directly. The truth is I was ashamed of something I didn't understand. And I took it out on you. And you were a child. His voice cracked. You were my child. The room held that sentence for a long time. Marcus had imagined this moment on and off for 15 years. In some versions he was cold and surgical, listing every wound with precision. In others he wept. In the version he had returned to most often in the last 3 weeks, he sat exactly as he was sitting now, composed and clear-eyed, and he said what he actually felt instead of what the wound wanted him to say. I needed you, Marcus said. His voice was steady. Not Derek's version of me. Not some imaginary son who played football. Me. The one who was already there. He paused. And you couldn't do it. You couldn't see past what I looked like or what I couldn't do. And that cost me years of believing there was something wrong with me. Raymond closed his eyes. But I want you to know, Marcus continued. And I need you to really hear this, I did not build my life to prove you wrong. I thought I did for a long time. But what I actually built it for was to prove myself right. To prove that the kid sitting in the hallway reading was worth something. That kid deserved better. And he found it. Raymond opened his eyes. They were wet and old and carrying something enormous. I'm sorry, Marcus, he said. I am so sorry. The silence that followed was not empty. It was full of 15 years and 1,000 unsaid things and the peculiar aching tenderness of something broken finally being looked at in the light. Marcus did not say it was okay. 'Cause it wasn't, not entirely, not yet. But he nodded. Slowly. The nod of a man choosing to set something down, not because it wasn't heavy, but because he was done carrying it. Derek came home an hour later and stopped dead in the kitchen doorway. He had not been told Marcus was coming that day. He stood with his keys still in his hand and stared at his brother like he was seeing a ghost. A well-dressed, composed, entirely unbothered ghost. Marcus, Derek said. Derek, Marcus replied. An uncomfortable silence stretched between them. Derek looked older, heavier, carrying the stress of the business and the family in the lines around his eyes. You look... Derek started. He struggled to finish the sentence. Different, Marcus offered. Derek exhaled. Yeah. People tend to change in 15 years, Marcus said. His tone was not cruel, but it was not warm either. It was neutral in the way that only someone who has done real work on themselves can achieve. Derek set his keys on the counter. He looked at the floor. I wasn't good to you, he said. It came out rough and ungraceful. The way apologies do when they've been rehearsed in the mirror but still don't feel like enough. When we were kids. I was a jerk. You were, Marcus agreed. Derek looked up, apparently surprised that Marcus wasn't softening it for him. I'm not here to make this comfortable for you, Marcus said. But I'm also not here to burn anything down. I'm here because Mom asked me. And because I decided I was ready. He looked at his brother steadily. What you do with that is up to you. Derek nodded. It was a slow, humbled nod from a man who had spent years being the golden child and was only now understanding what that crown had cost his brother. The family dinner that evening was quiet at first and then gradually, carefully, something warmer. Carol made the pot roast Marcus had loved as a child, and she cried twice during the meal for no announced reason. Raymond asked Marcus careful, genuine questions about his work, and listened with the focused attention of someone who was aware they were running out of time to get things right. Derek asked about Chicago and Marcus told him, not warmly, not coldly, just honestly. It was not a reconciliation wrapped in ribbon. It was something more real than that. It was the beginning of a long and imperfect process of accounting. of sitting in the same room with old damage and deciding together what to do about it. After dinner, Marcus helped Carol with the dishes. They stood at the sink side by side and she kept touching his arm briefly, the way she used to when he was small. Little anchoring touches, like she was reassuring herself he was real. "Are you happy?" she asked him quietly, the way only a mother asks, meaning something deeper than the surface word. Marcus thought about his apartment with the city view. About Darius, who was his best man when he got married 3 years ago. Yes, married, to a woman named Simone who was a pediatric surgeon and laughed like a thunderstorm and had absolutely no patience for self-pity. He thought about the Harkin Bridge, which he had stood on after completion in the rain, and felt something move through him that he now understood was pride in its purest form. He thought about the notebook, which still sat in his desk drawer in Chicago, the first page worn soft with age, the sentence written by a 9-year-old boy who refused to disappear. "Yes," he told his mother. "I really am." She nodded. She looked at the soapy water in the sink and smiled the sad, grateful smile of a woman who knows she didn't protect her child the way she should have and is living with that, and is also watching him stand in her kitchen whole and strong and alive, and is finding a way to hold both things at once. Before Marcus left that evening, he paused at the front door. Raymond was still in his chair by the window. The light had gone golden and low. Marcus walked over and stood in front of his father. Raymond looked up at him. Neither of them said anything for a moment. Then Marcus extended his hand. Raymond looked at it. His own good hand trembled slightly as he raised it and clasped his son's hand and held it. "I'll come back," Marcus said. "Not because we're fixed, but because I'm choosing to." Raymond's grip tightened briefly. His eyes were full. "Thank you," he said. Marcus nodded. He let go. He walked to the door, picked up his jacket, and stepped out into the cool September evening. He sat in his car for a moment before starting it. The house glowed warmly in his rearview mirror. He thought about the boy who had left this driveway in the dark with $42 and a sentence in a notebook. He thought about everything that boy had built, brick by brick, with no blueprint and no safety net and nothing but his own stubborn, brilliant refusal to become what they expected. And then he started the car and he drove forward the way he always had. Because that was who Marcus Elliott was. He did not look back for very long. He just kept building. That story right there is proof that the people who count you out are sometimes the greatest fuel you will ever have. Marcus didn't come back to destroy anyone. He came back to close a chapter with his head held high and his life already built. If this story moved you, hit that like button right now and share this video with someone who needs to hear it today. And if you haven't subscribed yet, click that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a video. We drop stories just like this one, stories about resilience, about rising, about people who refuse to stay down every single week. Drop a comment below and tell us what part of Marcus's story hit you the hardest. We read every single one. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next one.